Well,
Yeah.
thanks for doing this day. This is today is actually the 5-year anniversary of opening OPO. It's 5 years ago that we opened the doors here and finished. We bought the building in 2013, and then opened it as OPO on May 5th, 2015. And I didn't really know what we were doing. At the time I was in the middle of BoardPack was running pretty strong at the time. I wasn't sure why we were doing this or what we were doing, but it turned out well. So
Yeah.
it's been a great run, and the most rewarding thing of it isn't really OPO. It's what people like you are doing, and that's what's been kind of cool today and yesterday is just talking to the various entrepreneurs. And I mean, you're having a nice, really a great run. I mean, you see what you've done, not just with what you're doing today, and you've had some very recent successes in terms of raising some capital and getting your Transactly going, but also what you've done with Worth Clark. And I thought we'd spend a little bit of time. We can talk about one or both or however you want to talk about it, but
Sure.
you're quite a bit younger than me, and you're moving fast, which is exciting.
Yeah.
It's great to see what you're doing, and
Yeah.
the more I learn about especially what you're doing with Transactly, it's really cool, and how how you found that niche and are growing the business around it is really interesting. So I thought we'd
Yeah.
spend some time talking mainly about that, but we can talk about whatever you want, Brian. So.
Sure. Yeah. No, I
So,
appreciate that.
yeah. So you want to talk? I guess you want to start. Just talk. You want to talk about Worth Clark at all and your Inc. 500 type? I know that was really the. I mean, it looks like you've done a couple other things before that, but that's kind of where
Yeah.
you got started, and then we can kind of blend into really the exciting stuff for me is what you're doing with Transactly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Worth Park Realty is the brokerage that I started. I got into real estate in 2007, and it's funny because I was an equities trader prior to that with some technical background because you started as an equities trader during the dot-com boom is when I got into that. Worked for Scottrade for 10 years, and equities trading just went away because of regulation in terms of actually someone taking a position, like someone actually trading. And then that became really more of a business analyst role where I worked with a team of engineers and we developed algorithms and how you would route orders. So we'll make full circle of this because owning a technology company, a lot of the things that I learned at Scottrade are now, they're helping out quite a bit. So anyway, as things grew there, I pitched a lot of projects, some of which worked out pretty well for the company. It grew like most corporations should.
Yeah.
But with that, when I started there was only a couple hundred employees. When I left, it was about 3,000. So fast forward to 2009, I had started dabbling in real estate in the side. And it was just kind of one of those things where I was getting kind of burnt out with that corporate world and hitting roadblocks on pitching things to a board and really wanted to do something entrepreneurial. And I found a gap with real estate. So I left ultimately and started up Worth Clark Realty, which at that time, what we offered was pretty unique and it's becoming somewhat mainstream now. And what it is the ability for agents to join a platform. Essentially, we're a lot of people refer to it as a virtual brokerage. We've never maintained office space for agents. Right now, Worth Park Realty has about 500 agents across 5 states, and none of them report to a physical office. Since day one, everything we did was online. And then we would share that savings with them. So it was just a flat fee structure as opposed to a commission model. So that was fairly attractive. I mean, that grew quick, and then the recession hit, and around that same time. But I think that's where, and like right now, where a lot of entrepreneurs should thrive is seeing opportunities. So at that time, the opportunity was a cost savings for agent, and then also we jumped into property management, which is not something I intended to do and not something that we really liked as a business, but it was very opportunistic at the time because this was, okay, so fast forward a couple of years and we're into the business, 2011, 12, no one could sell their house.
Yeah.
So, we thought, all right, well, what if we lease it for you and manage it? And then we quickly became the largest residential property manager in the state of Missouri. and expanded out to Kansas City and Chicago and Denver, and then got tired of that, and then sold that business. And that's about when Transactly started up.
Oh, so are you you no longer have interest in Worth Clark now, or?
Sorry, let me clarify. We sold the property management business.
Oh, the property.
Still have
Okay,
Worth
got
Clark.
it.
Yeah. I'm still majority owner there.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And you know, the brokerage, it's kind of a sandbox to try different things. That's how Transactly came about too, to see what works. So I can go into that kind of the genesis of Transactly.
Yeah, because I remember when you were putting the team together for Transactly, I wasn't quite sure what you were doing there, but you're doing some kind of tech thing in the real estate space, and I know you were, you know, you spent some time putting some code together to get that going. But it's really interesting now that I kind of learned about what that actually is. It's a pretty interesting business that you've kind of niche that you've kind of found there, which is really, you know, it should be very appealing to the market. So maybe talk a little bit more about when did you start Transactly, and maybe even talk about your funding mechanism there.
Yeah. So it really started just as a project within Worth Clark, early 2017, you know, and I hired Alyssa, which you've met several times now, and she came in as kind of that business analyst role of like developing requirements, helping put together what would be an MVP, and then hired one developer and another developer. Initially for Worth Clark, what we wanted to create was a dashboard. The problem that we saw, and it's still there, and we're solving it with Transactly, is just a lack of transparency. You know, if you have a real estate deal, you've got typically 30 to 45 days that go on, and you have at least 5 people involved in that deal. You've got about 30 plus tasks that have to be tackled. And a lot of times the buyer and seller would call into Worth Clark, you know, I guess a complaint about the agent, like, hey, I have no idea what's going on. You know, she emailed me this, but I'm not sure. And there had to be a solution for it. So we started creating what would be a dashboard for the transaction. What we realized, and once I started talking to other people, is that, you know, for it to really work and to be something collaborative, that it had to be a platform that would be agnostic of one real estate brokerage or any brokerage. So that's when we decided to spin it out and create what is now Transactly. So in terms of funding, we raised some angel funding, and then, I mean, Worth Clark funded a good chunk of it as well. So we raised about $1.5 million. About a half of that came from Worth Clark to really get us to where we are now. We just closed another round, a $3 million Series A round.
That's very exciting. Yeah, congrats.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. So it evolved a lot in that time, though. So let me take a step back. And we finally got a product to market. Well, we did some beta with a number of agents within Worth Clark and some brokerages outside the summer of 2018, and felt comfortable enough to launch something Q3 of 2018. And initially, we intended on just being a freemium/SaaS model for agents so that they could provide that transparency to their clients. And it caught on with some of the type agents that are highly organized and want to keep those things organized and managed. But you also find that a lot of salespeople really don't care. Most salespeople aren't highly detailed and organized. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've been a salesperson, and sometimes you just focus on the deal, not the details, which is fine. And we found that a lot of them that were coming on the platform were either bringing a coordinator with them. There's this role called a transaction coordinator, or they just wanted us to do these things for them and drive the application. So we did some market research around this transaction coordinator role and realized there's a lot of demand. At least 50% of the agents that we surveyed either used one, intended on using one, or used one at some point and weren't for whatever reason now. So we decided to launch that as a tech-enabled service, and we launched that June of 2019, and the demand has just been incredible. So now that's a big driving factor of our platform. We still have more and more people jumping on and using organically, meaning agents that are managing the transactions, coordinating themselves. But you know, the way we monetize and what a lot of agents are drawn to is this tech-enabled service. So the technology behind it enables these coordinators to do more. You know, there's some machine learning aspect to this. where we're able to learn quite a bit of the detailed tasks and documents, and we're building in automations that allow those TCs to do more and more transactions. So that's how we scale up. And then the benefits the agents that use it as well. It allows them to be more productive.
So you have this platform for these TCs, or the transaction coordinators, and you actually, how many transaction coordinators do you have right now? I mean, you that's what you're hiring a lot of. I mean, in addition to the tech people and the sales people, whatever, but you're actually providing the actual TCs in a centralized fashion, you know, that serve agents all over the country, right?
Yeah. So we have, don't quote me on this, I think last week we ended up with 71, but we're adding them almost weekly.
Yeah.
The transaction coordinators. So
that's a lot.
And we have 23 people on staff in addition to those 71 as well. Wow. So we've grown quite a bit just in the last 6 months.
Yeah, that's exciting. So how do you talk a little bit about how you add to your customer base? How are you finding, because your customers are really the realtors, right? The agents. And
yeah, that's ultimately our client, anyone that wants us to coordinate and manage transactions. So there are for sale by owners that we help as well. We don't particularly market to them.
That's true.
I mean, if you think about it from a client perspective, with one agent, we have multiple transactions over a year. For sale by owner, it's once every 5 years or what have you. So we don't necessarily market to them, but they find us. And then we have some institutional investor clients too, which are pretty interesting. But we primarily right now just market to, you're right, realtors. Prior to this last round of capital, it's been mainly pay-per-click and content-driven. We produce a lot of content. You know, we play the SEO game, which is very much a cat and mouse game, but it's working for us. And now that we have some capital, now we're looking at larger partnerships with Inman News, which is a big media and content provider specifically for our industry. A couple of others, I don't want to say smaller groups because they're still large within the community, but small in terms of audience size. So like Lab Code Agents, some big Facebook groups that have followings and so forth.
Yeah. So you're so who's coordinating all this marketing? Is this something you're doing yourself, or do you have a person that's your digital marketing manager of some type, or and then
we're actively hiring for that role. Yeah. But right now,
nice.
like with most startups, you just wear many hats. So
you're figuring a lot of this out. So yeah. It sounds very familiar. So, Google, you're doing Google, maybe a little bit of Bing. You're doing the social media stuff, and so are you using tools to help manage that process? I know we've used several of these various tools to develop the content and you push it out across multiple platforms. I don't know if you can talk any more detail about how you're creating content. Who's creating the content? Are you paying people to do that, or are you doing it?
Many hats being worn. So, and I say that for many team members that we have now. Yeah. So, like our product person, Alyssa, she's put out a lot of the content. We have a couple of interns that have put out content for us. Our sales folks have written content for us. We've all learned quite a bit over the last year there. Right now, our big push is in more video. I think
that's kind of what we're doing today.
Yeah.
You need to come over and use the studio. I just used it for the first time yesterday. It's like, I don't remember when we built this thing. It's like, man, we need a studio. And so it's cool video is a hot thing right now. So YouTube and then on all the social platforms.
Well, even in your email, right? If you send an email, someone's more likely to watch that video than 3 paragraphs on why they should use your service. We just found it just resonates. We get higher open rates, more views. People tend to stick longer on one of our pages if there's a video. There's a lot of benefit to it.
So what kind of videos are you putting together? Are they like interviews with agents, or on how they're using your TCs, or what?
Again, it'll be more value-added content is what we intend. So far, it's primarily been a lot of testimonials that we've worked on and we're continuing to put together. Some that are kind of gimmicky marketing that I could say that I put together that you put on the actual page itself. And then things that just kind of, as we go forward, that are more value added. If it's a quarterly newsletter or something like that, then it would be on a new product feature or some other way, or conversation with someone else that can help an agent thinking about scaling up their business, something that they would want to watch so we can stay top of mind.
Yeah, I remember when we started BoardPack, our first video we made was we used a company out of Seattle. It was an online deal called Splainers. And the whole concept was they explain your business to other people. So it's, so you pay them a couple $1,000s and they put together a very short animated video. And that thing's still circulating around YouTube somewhere. But it was kind of funny. It's like a cartoonish type thing, but it had a little bit of humor into it. And so I don't know, but it got a lot of clicks. And so I still go out there. You go out there and Google it. It's out there. And I just they were reaching out to me not that long, I want to say 6 months, a year ago, to do another Splainers video. So so there's all kinds of this stuff. And I remember using like, what was it? There's another service. There's all these online things you can find out to create content. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. I found, though, a lot of people want the more genuine, authentic, candid, kind of like this, so that's where our focus is.
Yeah.
Even if it's something that goes in an email or some distribution that's intended for marketing, a little bit more candid, people tend to, I think, just resonate with it.
I don't know why. I just kind of, like I said, we had built the studio here, and I just kind of resist it, sitting down, taking the time to do stuff. But, you learn new stuff. I mean, you have to learn about, and a lot of the people I've worked with, Alan and Craig, Adam, these guys have all done a lot of, they're musicians, and I can't sing or play an instrument at all, but they're very talented. Most you find good software developers that usually they're pretty talented musically, and they love this, putting videos together and the sound and the video and the lighting. I know my oldest son, Ree, when he was in college, he used to do the lighting at the Mizzou auditorium. And when he was interviewed, he put together in the interview process, he had to put a presentation together, and it was on stage lighting. So he had like a flashlight and these army men or whatever, and he was showing how the light affected, putting together these videos. So, anyway, it's neat. You learn, and people like video. And we're learning that today. I mean, we're in this pandemic deal right now, and you see, the people that are doing well are the people producing content. So
well, video goes beyond that too. I think we're finding out our conference circuit that we planned on going to this year is just even out through November, they're already getting canceled. But they're all going live online.
Well, yeah, I mean, and we put together I don't know what you're using. Are you using Zoom or Google or Microsoft? Everybody's got these things in. Alan and team put this together inside of the Opio app, and it's been really great to see it. And they put it together pretty quick. But it's I can see us using it a lot more virtual, not only in-person meetings, but virtual meetings like this.
Well, this one, I didn't catch the name of it, but it caught me a little off guard because I clicked join, and I was assuming I was going to get a Zoom, test your audio, video, and no, bam, I was live.
Well, yeah,
to get my AirPods in.
The developers
put
this. Alan and team put it
together. Put it that way.
You just gotta log into your Opio account, and it's in the Opio portal, or we call it Opio app, and so it's the same place you schedule to reserve a conference room, or you want a directory of members. So so we're planning on launching this with our membership wear stuff June 1st. So it was a test for us. I got to get back on you. I'm not supposed to be about me here. So tell me a little bit more about your culture of your company, because I've met several of your folks, and maybe talk about the culture of your organization. I mean, you wear a lot of different hats. You kind of talked about that already. But maybe talk a little bit about what your thoughts are about company culture.
Yeah, I think, company culture is one of the most vital aspects, especially at this stage of the company, because it can go lost really fast.
Yeah.
We've more than doubled our employee count in the last 6 months, And so if that's not top of mind, things can go haywire really quickly. And I've seen it happen in the past, both in companies I've worked for, and even in Worth Park, there were some challenges there. We weren't really heavy on culture at the time we were hiring, and put it in place afterwards, which I would say is a debate. It is a chicken or egg thing. Your culture is very much a culmination of the people you hire, but you should also take that into consideration before you make those decisions to hire. So anyway, we borrow a lot from, I've always been a big fan of Netflix's culture of freedom and responsibility. So we borrow a lot from that. I like to say we're a meritocracy, so we really don't, what's more important is what you're accomplishing, what you're getting done for the company, what you're moving the needle on things, as well as some of the other things of like just doing the right thing. Those are some of our core values that you'll see listed on our website. The rest of it, I think, falls in place if you focus on moving the needle, doing the right thing, some of those basics, and you don't have to micromanage. So when I say freedom of culture and or a culture of freedom and responsibility, I mean, we all are very clear in what we're setting out to do. And it doesn't matter whether your butt is in the desk over there from 9 to 5 or not, right? What really matters is that you're working collaborative with the team to move forward with things, and that's done, as a team.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I know when we spent a lot of time at Quillogy on culture was a huge part of it, and it seems like as you add people, you really got to focus on culture. I mean, early on you're so focused on solving the problem that you're in business to do, and at the end of the day, what you start quickly learn is one of the most important things is the people and the people you hire, and then the culture you develop around them really to have staying power really has a big impact. So
and the people, that's key, and other people understanding that everyone has a life is a big key for us, because you'll have some people that are people will have things to do at any given time, right? And we don't just necessarily just say, well, you have to stop everything for this moment, especially if you're accomplishing things. And that is a challenge, especially in an aggressive startup, because you'll have people, we'll let them go. If they want to work all weekend, go for it. But you can't expect the other person to do it as well. That's not the expectation. So it's a balancing act as you bring in new people. And then also there's a balancing act with this new reality that we have. Like we've got a couple of people in the office every day, but the majority of them are all remote. So there's just some basic rules that we're now setting out to maintain everyone's included in the same way. So like if it's a 3-person meeting, for example, and 2 of them are in the office and 1's remote, the meeting is remote. The 2 people should not be in the same room. That way the other person doesn't feel isolated. So there's all these different dynamics. You constantly have to just readjust and make sure that you're keeping things in a way that works for everyone that's involved, and you're not isolating one people in a certain way. I'm not sure if this is making sense or not, but
well, no, I think it's definitely a different world. I mean, it's amazing to me just the number of what's happened with this pandemic is that people that we've had video conferencing around forever. I mean, not forever, but I mean, it's been around for quite a while.
Decade, yeah.
But I can't tell you the number of people that I've been on video conference calls with that say, "Hey, this works pretty good," and then, but it does introduce a whole bunch of new things that you haven't thought about that you've got to, put some more thought. How does it impacting the team, the culture, and being an entrepreneur, one of the things I always tell my kids, the thing I love most is the flexibility. And we're all, I don't even look at I haven't worked for anybody since it's been 30 years, and I could never work for anybody. I remember when I quit my job. I was an engineer at Illinois Power and then Grant Thornton. And I remember when my father-in-law had sent me down to the building you're in, actually, to the back room there where your developers are. There was I won't say his name, but there was a small business consultant in there, and my father-in-law had sent me down. Randy, you need to go talk to this guy before you think about starting your business. So I went down and talked to him, and he really kind of discouraged me. He was kind of playing devil's advocate about starting your own business. Is this something you really want to do? He said, you'll never, when you do this, you'll never be able to work for anybody again. And that always stuck with me. And I believe it. I don't think I could ever work for somebody. I sit on the board of a public company, and it's like, oh man, this is tough. When we go to, I always have trouble, when I chair a committee of any type, you have to follow Robert's rules and do the voting and everything. I said, well, we don't vote in my company. And so, but that's not really true, because, it is very much a team aspect. But having that flexibility and the video conferencing stuff that we're doing is, allowing people more freedom to deal with their families. They're at home. There's also this aspect of, well, I need to get away from my family a little bit to get some work done, or quiet time where you're not disturbed, to be able to get things done. So, but I do think that the whole concept of video conferencing and the way that we work remote and finding more ways to collaborate with our teams is in a meaningful ways, and what are the rules and the culture around that are still being defined. So it's going to be an interesting time period here as are people going to come back to the office, or are we going to have more people working remote? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think any. Yeah, who's not in the next year? I don't think.
Yeah,
a lot of them.
yeah,
I really don't.
I think till they get a vaccine, or I don't know.
Yeah.
And even then, I think people are going to be more comfortable. Hey, let's just hop on a. Instead of doing, I really worry about conference centers and event type venues, whether I think people still are going to want that personal interaction. I mean, I really thrive. I love just talking to people like you. Just, I know even when you moved over into the Oddfellows, but you just come in and just sit down, just talking about shop or the industry, or, starting a business, dealing with, one of the problems as an entrepreneur, you're kind of lonely, because you have your outside friends, but if they're not other entrepreneurs, they don't, you're going through things that you can't necessarily share with other people. And it's to me, it's really important that there's this peer group of entrepreneurs that get to share with each other. And I really enjoy the opportunity to talk with you and a lot of the others that are part of OPO and other groups that I belong to those are some of my most favorite times is, getting to, I love that, getting together once a month just to chat.
Yeah, I agree. And I think most employees do as well, as you're with this remote environment right now. The tricky part is different ideas are spawned from those unplanned conversations. And I've yet to see that happen over video too much.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to bump into each other in the video hall and then start randomly talking about whatever topic, and then some potential ideas for that topic, which is, we'll see how that works out in the future. Like, for us, we've hired some remote developers, and the idea is, well, we'll just fly them in. Maybe it's semi-annually or quarterly, and there's just, a couple days of just straight collaboration. That's all they do is sit in a room.
Yeah.
That might be the solution, not quite sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, especially from the software development side. I know for the last, since we did board packs and we started hiring our developers, we've always had them work from home on Fridays, but then, we would mandate that they'd have to be in the office Monday through Thursday. Now since we sold that, the next phase, what we're doing with our membership, where it's really Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, they're in the office. So we want that time for people. We still want that dynamic of that interaction. And, it just, in terms, I think you get momentum and things can move a lot quicker when you get that face time. But also I think people need that time where they're not being disturbed, or, you can accomplish a lot when you're kind of tucked away and focusing on a specific task. But I think, that getting that input from, broad spectrum of employees is really important too. So, Anyway,
Absolutely.
so what else do you want to share with us about Transactly? I mean, you guys have done awesome. I just can't wait, to see where you go in the next we've been doing this 5 years at OPO, but I can't wait to see where what's going to happen with Transactly. It's really exciting. You've made a lot of progress this past year, and it's exciting to see. I can't wait to see where this goes. What do you think? Where do you think you're going to go, and what do you think the potential is for Transactly?
That's a big question.
Yeah,
The potential is extremely large. I mean, you got to think about the number of homes that are sold. Maybe not when you're in a pandemic, but
yeah,
even
yeah,
now, I mean, we've seen so far what is shaking out to be about a 20% decline in
yeah,
transactions across markets. As a company, we're not seeing too big of a hit yet, just because we're in such a fast-growing stage where we're still picking up,
yeah,
you know, dozens of new clients each week that are signing up to use our service. What we're creating is a platform, again, that streamlines the whole transaction. So we have other people that are plugging into it over time as well. Once you go under contract, if you're using Transactly, everything's getting carried out on the platform. And then what it will be interesting to see is how we can interpret how those things are happening and how they'll happen moving forward. I'll give you an example, like with so PDFs, documents are just an integral part of real estate. They're not going to be
yeah,
blockchained away anytime in the near future. One of the things that we're doing behind the scenes is we're looking at a lot of those documents, and we can tell trends that are happening in those documents, which will really help, I think, with certain associations. And I think it'll also help with the users in terms of identifying things like missing signatures and dates and fields. That what happens, I'd say, on almost half of the real estate deals is you get to closing and you realize you're missing a page, or someone forgot to sign this, or what have you. We're catching those things real time now.
yeah.
So those things take time to develop. That's why it's taken us a little while. It gets better and better with usage. So
Yeah, it's kind of like
what we're creating is not anything super flashy. We can go, here you go, because real estate's unlike catching a cab, where Uber can just do that thing in 2 minutes. This is something that takes typically 14 months for a buyer or seller to decide. Once they've decided to buy or sell their home, to get to closing. And then once they get a contract, it takes 30 to 45 days. And there's many people involved. So
yeah, I like the concept. You're talking a little bit about an audit type situation.
yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, so like some of those things may not resonate to everyone, but if you're in the real estate industry and you deal with the documents and people, which is just very, very fragmented, I think it'll resonate what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to respect your time. We're at our 30 minutes here, so I should stop.
Okay, it
Stop
went
there.
fast.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again to all the success you've had, and you're much younger than I am. You got a lot of years ahead of you, so I'm very excited to see where you're going with this and many other things that you're involved in. So congratulations, and thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much for being part of OPO and doing this.
Love being a part of it.
Doing this today. So thanks. All right, great
Thanks,
job.
Randy.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Bryan.
appreciate it.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care. Bye.